Start off, we'd like to welcome all the Doors to Oswego. Group High. Okay. Want to introduce yourselves?
John, drums.
Ray, organ.
Robbie, guitar. Jim, vocal.
Okay. And the group together is known as the Doors. One of you fellows like to comment on how the group got the name in the first place? Ray?
Oh, you
Wait a minute,
No, leave it on. Yeah, well, the name came about in a dream, really. It was through a dream.
How long ago was the group organized?
About a year and a half, 2 years now.
But it's just in the last few months that you've really made it big with Light My Fire. How long ago did you originally write that record?
Well, we recorded it last year, I think, around November, December. And the album was released around the first of the year, and we had a single off the album that didn't do much. And then there was a lot of request for a short version to Light My Fire so the DJs could play it on the radio, and it just got started from there.
Well, the track on the album was much longer with that organ solo in the middle.
Right.
On the single, is that just actually physically edited, or is that in a whole other version?
No, we cut it. We cut the tape.
Steve?
This is Steve Flesser with the Doors at Suco. During freshman orientation, I'd like to ask John Densmore. John, is there any correlation between the significance of the name The Doors and life itself?
And life itself. I don't know. Ask Jim. He'll answer.
Robbie, how about it?
No, there's no correlation at all.
No correlation. How would you define Doors in the sense that you use it for a name of a group?
Doors are what's between the known and the unknown.
Well, now, doesn't that describe some aspect of life?
Well, not to me.
Does it have any significance to any of you fellas as far as correlating to something in life?
Death.
Death. You feel it correlates with death?
That's what I just said.
All right. Back to Mike Lazar.
Okay. Now, do you fellows write most of your own material, or do other people write for you?
No, we write all of it.
Where does inspiration come for writing records?
I don't know. It just... Jim?
The unconscious.
How does it come from the unconscious? Do you think of things and then just put it into words? What tells you that one material is good and others aren't?
You know, unasked for. They just pop out of the unconscious.
When you have songs written, which ones do you, how do you determine which ones will make a hit and which won't?
The public determines that.
Now, on sales of albums and singles, how have the sales, let's say, on your records compared? You have your first album and your first single. How have sales compared?
Compared to what?
Well, how many, which has sold more, the album or the single?
Well, they just both became gold. They both sold $1 million.
No, the album is $1 million album. It's only sold about 700,000. The single has sold about 1,200,000, or about 1,200,000.
I understand you have a new single and album coming out this week, is that right?
The single is out this week. The album will be out in about 3 weeks.
Has there been any reaction so far to the single which has been released?
Yeah, it's supposed to be doing very well. It's a pick hit in New York and in L.A.
Do you find that these pick hits at radio stations can really do a lot for a record?
Well, no, they don't. They don't mean much, really, except that they get played a little more.
But by playing the record more, do you find that it can increase sales quite a bit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the more it's played, the better chance you have, usually.
Okay, thank you. Now back to Steve Flesser.
Speaking now with Ray Manzarek of The Doors. Ray, do you feel you have an obligation to the people who buy your records?
Well, we just do the best we can.
Do you feel that you do your best you can as far as lyrics and music? Let me ask you this. Do you feel that when you put together a record, you would rather think of it as merely a sound that is bought, or do you feel that you would prefer having people think of it as something that says something and something that means something?
Both.
Both. In other words, you're selling a sound and you're selling something that you feel says something.
Right.
Would you like to disclose how much you gross in profit on a single, on the sale of one single RPM?
Let's see, one single, we get a nickel.
You get a nickel on a single. How about recording sessions now? What are some of the peculiar complexities of recording sessions, and how do you compensate for them?
Well, recording is entirely different than playing in person. In the recording studio, it's more like a laboratory. You're able to be much more selective about what you create. Whereas in person, there's a greater degree of spontaneity about the whole thing.
Ray, how much time do you spend in a recording session to cut a single?
Oh, it varies. Some come pretty quick, others take quite a while.
What is quite a while, and then how would a single compare to an album?
Well, the single's just one cut. You know, an album is 11, 12 cuts, so that takes 11 or 12 times as long as a single does.
Naturally. And do you record an album in one day, or do you spend several days?
No, it usually takes weeks to record.
Weeks. And then how soon after it's recorded is it released?
Well, that usually depends on the record company, depending on how the sales are doing and, you know, what time of year it is and how long it's been between singles and albums and all sorts of factors, really.
We are speaking with Ray Manzarek of The Doors, and one final question before turning it back to Mike Lazar. Ray, how much time do you feel it'll take an album to really catch on if it has a sound and it says something?
I think that depends on the group, how well known they are. Like our first album took quite a while. It was released in January, and it's just, it's number 2 now in the nation. So that's taken quite a long time. I don't imagine the next one will take nearly so long because the people know the name, The Doors. They'll say, oh yes, that's a new Doors album. Let's hear what they've got to say.
And is there one season of the year when record sales are usually better than any other season?
Gee, I don't know. You'd have to ask the record companies about that.
All right, and with that, we'll turn it back to Mike Lazar.
Thank you, Steve. Now we're back with the Doors. I'd like to find out something about your touring. Right now, are you on a tour, or are you just doing a bunch of one-nighters?
What's the difference?
On a tour, isn't it every night you have a certain concert, whereas otherwise you're just playing certain nights a week?
Yeah, I guess we have a few days off this time.
But how much of the year do you go on concerts like this?
Every couple of weeks.
You like playing for college audiences more than the big stadiums, like, let's say, a Big Shea Stadium deal or some of the big War Memorial concerts? Could you compare the two?
This is our first college engagement.
So right now it's actually a test for you, too, to see what their audience is like.
Yes.
How have you liked the bigger audiences so far?
The bigger, the better.
The bigger, the better. Do you mind them screaming?
No, they don't usually, though.
They don't. Do you find that your personal lives are taken up quite a bit with this, that you can't, like if you recognize that everybody will start chasing you, do you ever find this?
People don't do that anymore.
You have pretty much of your own lives.
Although there's no separation between personal life and this life. It's all the same life.
Do you find that? But do you find that no matter what you're doing in life, it's still part of the Doors, like in your private life?
Yeah, you can't separate them.
You're always being taken up with recording sessions or picture sessions or other things.
Well, just like, does a student have a personal life?
Yes. There's an academic life and a social life.
So when he's having a social life, he's not a student anymore.
He's not in his student role. He is a student.
He's still registered
Right.
as a student.
Mm-hmm. So you lead your own life, but you still have registered with the Doors so much.
It's, well, like when a policeman's off duty, he's still a policeman, right?
Exactly. Okay, we'll turn it back to Steve Flesser again.
Speaking now with Robbie Krieger of The Doors. Robbie, do you fellows ever have the opportunity to evaluate yourselves constructively?
No.
You ever sit down and listen to your records and listen for flaws?
Well, every time we hear our records, we hear all the flaws in them. You know, we don't have to sit down and look for them.
Is it like anything else? You hear the flaws, but the public doesn't,
Yeah.
because you're aware of them. And Jim Morrison, what instrument do you play?
I sing.
And do you play any instrument? No. Do you prefer playing at a place like Forest Hills Tennis Stadium or at the Village Theater?
I like playing any place where we're the headliners and there's a large crowd of enthusiastic people to watch us.
Do you feel that a more intimate atmosphere gives you a chance to develop more material while you're performing?
In an intimate club atmosphere, you can be more subtle and more intimate. In a large arena, you have to be more theatrical. But they're both interesting.
Robbie Krieger, would you say then that it's more impersonal performing before a large group than a small, intimate group?
Well, yeah.
You're not aware of individuals as much as in a smaller place. In a small place, you can see individuals, you know. In a large place, you can't, all you see is a mass. That's the big difference.
Ray Manzarek, have you fellows made your first international tour yet? Do
No.
you anticipate making one in the near future?
Probably, yeah.
We've been to Canada.
You have been to Canada. Where do you anticipate going on your first tour?
Probably England and Europe.
What other countries in Europe do you feel are, what kind of countries do you feel accept this music and will be favorably attracted to the Doors?
I'll tell you when we get back.
When you get back, there's a good answer. And Robbie Krieger, is there any particular country you prefer to perform in?
Yeah, I like the United States the best, I'd say.
Do you feel as an entertainer and a performer that you would like to develop to the fullest possible extent your capabilities in this country before going abroad?
Well, I don't know. I'd say that a lot of people make it real big by developing most of their potential in a foreign country, like Jimi Hendrix. Say that he was nothing when he was here, but he went to England, and he got very big over there, and now he's big here. But I'd say it's easier to do it by making up the United States first.
And now for another query, here's Mike Lazar.
Thank you, Steve. Now I'd like to ask you another question about your concert appearances. Most of the time when you're billed with other groups. Do you ever find that these groups start detracting from your popularity when you're on stage?
Well, so far they haven't, no.
You know, right now in the music industry, there's been somewhat of a discrepancy about whether psychedelic is in or out. What is your stand on it?
Well, I think it's coming in right now. It'll probably be here for quite a while.
Would you consider the Doors as a psychedelic group?
I don't know. I guess we're as psychedelic as any other group.
How would you consider your music?
Sensuous, evil, a mood of mystery and strangeness, and also a little bit of religion thrown in there too.
And you
provocative in there too?
No, it's pretty basic stuff, really.
So when you write with these guidelines in mind to try and have your music come out, or is this just what the final product always ends out to be?
No, I just listened to the album when it came out, and that's how it struck me.
In your own personal listening habits, what type of music do you like to listen to? Do you have any other favorite groups, or do you like to listen to your own music?
I don't listen to much. I like a few things. I like early rock and roll music. I like some blues. And I like Kimo Ito and Stravinsky and few others. That's about all I can remember.
Would any of you fellows say that the Doors as a group have been influenced by any one or a couple of different groups or individual people in the music business?
Not consciously.
You're trying to set your own pace then in music.
Yeah. Right.
Have you done any work with the Oriental sitar music?
No, we haven't used a sitar on record or on stage. We've used, that effect and at the end. A lot of people say it sounds like a raga or something. But that's about all.
What's your opinion of American teenagers, to get off the subject of music a little bit? Do you think their attitudes are the way they should be?
Well,
as a big rock group, you are being looked on by a lot of teenagers. A lot of girls are screaming at you on stage, which is no doubt, as most groups. And how do you feel about this?
well, I feel that they're just teenagers will be teenagers.
Do you think that when they grow up, their attitudes will change?
Oh, no, they won't change at all. No. They'll stay the same. Attitudes never change.
But as long as they keep buying the records, it's all groovy.
No, not really. I mean, I don't expect teenagers to grow up and keep buying the same, records.
You expect their attitudes to change as they grow up and to grow into different styles?
Well, no, I mean, our attitude will change, and if theirs does too, then they'll buy our records, but if they don't, then they won't.
Since you've been a group together, have you noticed any change in your own types of music?
Yeah, our music has gotten further out, I'd say, as we go along, Started off pretty close to us, like a skeleton, and now it's getting more full,
So that would be then your new album. So then you would think that your new album is much wilder out than your first album.
Oh, yeah, a lot. It's a lot further out.
Okay, we'll turn it back to Steve again.
I'd like to ask Ray Manzarek of the Doors a question. Ray, this is of particular relevance to the students at Suco. How would a group like the Doors feel about performing while an audience dances as they listen to your music? Do you feel this would provide too much distraction?
No, whatever the people want to do, let them do it. Whatever they feel. If they want to dance, dance. Sit. Doesn't matter.
We were discussing the personality of performing in different atmospheres before. Do you feel that this would further add to the impersonality of a concert when a group is so busy dancing that they wouldn't even have a chance to observe you fellows performing?
Well, while they're dancing, hopefully they're into the music. That's what makes them dance. So you can be just as much into the music dancing as you can sitting and listening.
But don't you feel it would be more of just a sound then, and not so much that they could sit and listen to and think about?
Oh, I don't know.
All right, Robbie Krieger, I'd like to ask you your opinion about that. Do you feel that it would provide too much distraction to perform in front of a group that's dancing?
Well, I don't know. We've never performed in front of a group that's just dancing. Like, whenever we perform at a dance, like, 3/4 of the kids just stand toward the front and watch, and the ones that want to dance are in the back dancing. And there's no distraction at all. It kind of keeps it,
Jim Morrison, where did the Doors start performing?
The group began practicing in a place called Venice in Los Angeles. It's a beach town. With the atmosphere of a dying arcade. And then our first job was a Christmas party. At a house, a relative of Robbie's. Then our first job was at the London Fog on Sunset Strip. And we were there it was a small club. that no longer exists. And the most people it could hold, I'd say, would be about 50. Maybe on a good night, there could be about 50 people. There was a bartender named George, a doorman named Sam, sometimes Joey would be at the door, a waitress named Susie, and a dancer named Rhonda, who danced in a little rope cage across from the bandstand. Jesse James was the owner. He was a young man, but he was dying of cancer, and it was kind of a struggle to keep the place going.
Now over to Robbie Krieger. Robbie, how was your record contract finally established, and by which company?
Electro Records found us at Whiskey a Go-Go, although we were signed to Columbia Records long before that, but we had trouble with them, so we got out of the contract. And the president of Electro Records came and heard us one night at the Whiskey and wanted to sign us.
I have not seen a road manager with you fellas. Are you traveling without one?
No, he's up there.
He's upstairs. Do you have a regular business manager, too?
Yeah, we do. Bob Green is his name.
Bob Green. And who's your road manager?
Bill Siddons.
How do you fellows feel about your upcoming performance on the Ed Sullivan Show? This will be next week?
It was announced that we would perform next week. Actually, it hasn't been agreed upon, but in all probability we will be on.
Does the thought of performing in front of millions of people literally frighten you at all, or do you feel that this will be a very impersonal setting due to the mechanized equipment that they use on a TV studio?
It's going to be very heavy because it's a live show. So anything we do will be seen by millions of people right at that instant.
Exactly, and that can be a frightening thought.
But that'll be a lot of fun.
Are you more anxious about performing in front of the live audience at the show or in front of the millions of TV viewers? Bobby, Robbie?
Well, I don't know. I've never performed on a live national TV show, but I'd say that it's probably more exciting playing in front of, a couple thousand people live rather than TV.
This is Steve Flesser and Mike Lazar with the Doors, and back now to Mike Lazar.
Okay, do you have anything?
Promos if they're included with your question.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much gone through the questions. Like,
Well,
do individual
it's getting
promos,
close
or
to
do
concert
group
time.
promos? We'll give you guys too much time.
It's close to
A little bit
concert
of time
time,
to
yeah.
rest.
Think of one more closing one.
Closing question? Okay, if you, let's say as a group or individually, if you could say one thing to all of your fans that are listening to your records and buying your records, what would it be?
Buy some of those records.
You have a closing word?
Sleep.
Okay. We're asking all the members of the Doors if you had a closing comment or something that you could say to all of your fans and listeners, what would it be?
Fuck.
And do you have anything you'd like to say?
Bye.
Thank you very much. From the Doors.
And fading out forever, this is Mike Lazar and Steve Flesser with the Doors. Now, a couple promos, fellas. Do you do them in a group or singly? Promotions for the Doors. For the Doors? For the Doors. To publicize your
corporation. Well, like I do a show, the Mike Lazar show, and the Steve Flesser, the Steve Flesser show. If you'd like to joke around with it.
I thought you were writing for the paper.
And we work for the station. This will be written up word for word for the paper. Of course, the clean stuff. And then the other stuff will be put on the air.
transcribe what's readable and the rest will burn. Yeah.
Well, I mean, are these like things like you're going to play a record and we say, well, this is the Steve Lazar show from
Steve, yeah, well, that's what we do. Like when we do the interview on the air, we play one of your records with it. That we always do. And then the promos would be on the air as the show progresses.
What's the promo?
Or like we're the Doors and you're listening to the Mike Lazar show. Or like You know, hi, we're the Doors, and whenever we're in town, we always listen to them. I'm not, but, you know, you can joke around with the idea, too, and say funny things. Or as a friend of mine once said.
All right, I'll try one.
Hi, this is Robbie of the Doors, and I always listen to the Mike Lazar show.
Except that you said the name wrong. Would you like to try that again, sir? Mike Lazar. Oh, that's what you wanted. Ah, okay. Nice guy. Okay. Want to try one? Okay, try.
My name is Jim of the Doors. When I'm in town, I always listen to the Mike Lizard show.
Over to Robbie Krieger. Steve Flesser, Flesser. Say it once.
Steve Flesser.
Robbie, how about something like I'm Robbie Krieger of the Doors, and I listen to the Steve Flesser show whenever I can.
I'm Robbie Krieger of the Doors, and I always listen to the Steve Flesser show when I'm in town.
And Jim Morrison, how about something? You're listening to the Steve Flesser show?
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm listening to the Steve Flesser show.
Ray Manzarek. Have you got the last name, Ray?
Yeah. Well, I listen to the Steve Flesser show whenever I'm in town, which is rarely.
I mean, Ray, how about one serious one, such as, this is what's happening. I'm Ray Manzarek, and this is what's happening, the Steve Flesser show.
Flesser?
Flesser.
Oh.
Right, you got it now.
Steve Flesser is what's happening.
Mike, you want to do a couple?
Okay.
I can't think of it.
Okay. Well, Mike Lazar, I'll leave the rest up to you.
Mike Lazard is also happening.
And who is it happening by?
Uh-huh. Who's it happening?
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Ray Manzarek of the Doors, and Mike Lazard is what's happening.
And the Doors are what's happening at the moment. Now, would you like to say a few choice words to our millions of people listening out there in Radio Land?
Yeah, this is John of the Doors. You're listening to the Mike Lazard show.
John, would you say the last name Flesser?
Flesser?
Flesser, once more.
Flesser?
All right, I'm John of the Doors, listening to the Steve Flesser show.
You are who?
Steve Flesser show. Flesser.
Or anything you'd like to say, John.
Yeah, this is John of the Doors. You're listening to the Steve Flesser show.
Try one more, John. Try one more. The last one's Flesser. All right. Jim Morrison.
Hi, I'm Steve Flesser, and I'm listening to the Jim Morrison show.
That's good. All right. How about your road manager? Does he want to do one, too? Uh-huh.
Hey, we got to go on soon.
All right. Sure thing. Thanks very much, fellas. How about, fellas, one more before you go. How about all together just...